Okay, in this video, we're going to be showcasing how to deal with some electrical issues, possible wiring issues on the VSETT 8/8 Plus. This can apply to the other models of VSETTs, but this one's specifically relating to the 8, with some of its special parts like the main light. So if you're receiving any error issues that refer to communication, what you'll want to do is check everything from top to bottom. So at the display, with the display on, check your connections. So while watching the display, wiggle things around, make sure that it's not cutting out. If your display is not turning on, you can try adjusting your connection, try turning it on again. If you see any tight kinks or angles in the wire, that's a possible indicator that there may be damage internally in that spot. So pay special attention there. Disconnect, reconnect. This one's just for testing purposes. This is the brake sensor wire. So in this instance, this one had broken. It was unable to be seen visually. It looked like this, but the brake sensor was tripping the little exclamation point on the display. So this one needs to be replaced. Right over here we have our motor single dual switch. Check that your pins are all lined up on both, display and this one. Disconnect, reconnect, make sure that the arrows are lined up. Check this section here. I'll preface this with saying you need to remove all of the cable wrap that covers this. So it'll usually look like this. Everything's wrapped up in plastic, and then there's a fabric tape on the inside. Remove all that so that you can see everything clearly. So checking these sections here with the display on. You can also keep trying to turn it on if it is not on while holding these in particular angles. So moving down, you can't check in here very easily. So we'll go to the bottom. Again, you'll need to remove the wrap to access all of this. So make sure there's no breaks or damages in the wires. You can do the same thing as up top. Twist, bend, see if anything turns on or turns off suddenly. And then we'll go down to the controller. So the controller is accessed through this front panel. There's 2 screws on the underside. You'll need to remove those, and then it comes off. Okay, there's usually a piece of foam right here, and it's a big jumble of wires. So paying special attention to where everything is crammed on the VSETT 8 Plus, there's 2 controllers. That makes it even tighter to work. And wiring is a particular way of going back in. So these ones here are your phase wires in the motor. These ones here are your charge connections for the charge ports. They connect to the battery. Right here we have one controller battery connection. This one here we have our display. That's the main harness that you saw up at the top. So what we're going to do is try and wiggle these things out. There's a lighting module tucking everything in up top. Remove that. If something's not coming, like this is not pulling very far, do not pull very hard. Just tuck it out of the way and follow the wires to see if you can find out what is catching it. There we go. So I believe in this instance you'll need to remove this controller first. It kind of comes out and angled. Pay attention to which direction it goes. Okay, they only like to go in one way with this vehicle. So we got one out, and we have another. Inspect the casing for any corrosion or visible signs of water damage. You're looking for white powder, green coloring, especially around the edges. You're looking for rust. These ones look pretty good. So we're all good there. This one here is your battery. That leads inside the deck. And your battery connections, the wires exiting the battery on this side. So they're over here. So what we want to do is find our main harness, disconnect that, inspect the pins, make sure nothing is bent, make sure there's no water inside, tuck everything back together, check the display, see if it turns on yet, see if it turns off suddenly and nothing works. After that, and it's good to note as well, do things in steps. Do one thing, check, come back, do another thing, check. You don't want to do a bunch of things and then try checking, because you may not know what fixed or broke something. So the next thing to do is check all of these connections. So all these small ones. You don't want to just visually look at it, because sometimes one of these wires will be partly disconnected. The pin inside won't be fully contacting. It'll just be separating. You want to actually tug on the wires a bit to see if anything comes free. All right, check all of those connectors. If you find something coming loose, push it back in, grab it by the wire, give it a push, try turning it on, see if that works. This is your lighting module, I said before. These are your brake sensor lines, I believe. No, these are your lights for front, and I believe rear is on this side. So after you've checked over all of the connections, if there's still nothing there, now's a good time to check the voltage on your battery. So disconnect, grab your multimeter, voltmeter. Flat side is positive, it's usually labeled directly on the connector. Make sure you do not cross the leads. Keep them separate. So this one reads 53 volts, which is 85, 90%. And we'll do the other one. Also 53 volts, which is good. You want to see the exact same or within 1 or 2 points voltage across the two. If you see 0 volts on either of these, there's a fuse just past here. You'll likely need to replace that. That's probably blown. Okay. So we're also going to cover the motor cable connections. So on the VSETT 8 Plus, you've got one motor in the front, one motor in the rear. When connecting, ensure the arrows are lined up, and they should be nearly touching. So you can see that's still not good enough. It's feeling firm, but there's still a space inside. So you want to grab something rubbery, something to give you a lot of grip, here and here, pushing, and you see it's still gone even further. So that should be ideally where they sit, to ensure that there's a proper connection between the two joints and that electricity flows properly. So if you're having issues with that little symbol up there, that's your brake sensor light. It's just to indicate that your brakes are engaged. So ensure that your lever travel is going all the way back. You should make sure it's contacting all the way at the end on both sides. If you've had an accident, there's a high likelihood that something has gotten misaligned, and that can be causing it as well. If you've had any severe stress to the wires, folding, unfolding can cause this, accidents can cause this. This brake sensor can get pulled out of the housing and the wires can become detached, but everything may look okay. It may look just like this one over here. So what you need to do is wiggle things around a little bit, and in severe cases you want to pull it apart. So you want to be able to pull this sensor out, and we can do another video on how to get that out. But that will be where the disconnect is, right inside of here. And your wires maybe just slightly come off of where it's supposed to be and causing a signal to trip when it shouldn't be there. So that may be an issue as well. If you're seeing that red symbol on your display and your brakes are completely engaged, everything looks fine, but you're still seeing that and you can't go anywhere, it's probably your brake sensor.